So here's your panels, right click on that, click new. SWOOD panel is going to ask you to name it. So for this first project, let's create an MDF panel. So to do that, we'll just name this guy MDF. And I think we're going to make that first panel 3/4 inch. So let's do 3/4 inch MDF. Just note, inside the panels library, it doesn't really like when you use the quotation marks as well as the slash mark needed to make like a fraction, you know, like that typical 3/4 inch. Like if I go to rename this 3/4 inch, it just deletes that part. So you have to be kind of creative with that naming structure. So we'll just do 3_4 for 3/4 inch MDF. And there's that. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys how to open that. So pretty much to open any of the options for this 3/4 inch MDF, you have to right click on it. And there's a couple, inside this drop down, there's a couple options. When you want to edit the panel specifically, you just click on this edit button and this opens up here. So as you can see, the graphic here is by default is kind of this like door core material. Not super pretty. And in order to change the appearance as well as the thicknesses, all of that is applied in the materials library. So to do that, we'll jump over here and we need to create a new material. So to do that, we'll right click here, hit edit, and it's going to open up this this window here. So you have a couple different options. You can create a new, delete. This has to do with like properties, import. All of this is more advanced user stuff. We're going to keep it super basic for this video. So we'll create a new material and we're going to name this material 3/4 inch MDF. And the naming structure on this isn't as strict, so we can just go ahead and name that there. The description, we'll go ahead, name that the same thing. This isn't required, but it is an option. And we want to change that thickness. So since it's 3/4 inch MDF, we'll put 0.75 to represent that, and that's 0.75 inches. Grain doesn't really come into play here. MDF is typically like paint grade-esque. So basically what I'm saying is like it gets painted over. And when you cut with MDF, there isn't a grain associated with it. But if you're cutting, let's say like a plywood, such as like Baltic birch, there is a grain associated with that. So you do want to like clarify that there is a grain with that. But for this material, we don't have to worry about it. And thickness calibration, again, is more of an advanced user stuff. So we won't worry about that either. And all of this has to do with like pricings of the sheet. So let's just go ahead and worry about the color, so that way we can differentiate. And actually, you know what, I'm wrong on that. Color isn't necessary either. We're looking for a texture. So the SWOOD library does come with a bunch of pre-made textures, and I know that it has an MDF one here, so we'll go ahead, import that. This texture height and texture direction just is more graphical. So when you go to apply that texture, you can define like how large you want that JPEG image that's painted over your panel. For this one in particular, we're just going to kind of keep it to that default value and not mess with that. And then the rest of this stuff here, if you wanted to have like different color or different texture based on the top versus the bottom of the panel, you can do that. There's also a way to make compound elements where you can have just regular, let's say MDF core, and then you can apply veneers to the outside of that. You can also create a material that represents that veneer as well. So with all that said, we'll go ahead and accept that as our material. So with that 3/4 inch MDF, we're going to come over, and to apply this material to this panel, basically we're just going to click on it, drag it over, place it on this panel. And once that's placed, you can see that that color changes, and also the thickness of this panel is 3/4 inch as shown here. Let's say for our material, or for our panel, we wanted to make this a different thickness. But yeah, if I wanted to change the thickness of this material, I would put in like 0.5, disregard the naming. But if I went and dropped this down here, you can see that that thickness went ahead and changed to that 0.5 inches. So since it's 3/4 inch, we want to stick with that 0.75. So we drop that down there. And what we'll do, we'll just go ahead, file, save this part file. And once we've done that, our 3/4 inch MDF is now saved. So even if we close this out, go to edit this again, you see those changes are still, have been saved.